Good. Okay. I thought for a moment then it was going to be the first time that I wasn't going to be able to start the presentation on time there. But yeah, managed to get everything sorted out just in time. So yeah, thanks a lot for joining me again. So this is Sprinkler Talk number 29, and this is about the latest sprinkler news. Obviously, this is based in the UK, so the news is kind of UK focused, but to those that are joining from other countries and other parts of the world, I hope you still find it useful, interesting to kind of know what's going on in the UK, and yeah, there is some European stuff as well. So I had a look for sprinkler stuff. I couldn't find a great deal of sprinkler news, so I kind of widened it a little bit to kind of fire safety in general, sorts of things that I discovered. So first of all, I like to do this. I like to start with some positive news, which is normally sprinkler saves. So this is where we've got a sprinkler system which is activated correctly and effectively, and saved a business, saved lives. So this example here is from a food distributor in Hastings from October. So this happened at last month. AF Blakemore and Son in Hastings at 6 a.m. So I don't, with some places and sometimes you kind of go, right, well, there obviously wasn't anyone around at the time. 6 a.m. food distribution is possible that they were open, that they were working. So yeah, we had a small fire which started in a fan unit, and say by the time the fire and rescue service arrived, it had been extinguished by the fire sprinkler system. It doesn't say how many heads operated, but I would guess it was just a single head. If it was described as a small fire that was already extinguished or quickly extinguished, as the quote says, say I imagine it was just one head in operation. So that's a really good example of sprinklers doing their job, and in fact kind of doing more than their job really, because as we've discussed many times in the past, that sprinklers aren't there to put the fire out. If they do put the fire out, that is considered to be a bonus. Fix that. Good. So yeah, that's a bit of good news there. That would have disrupted the business. So put people out of work potentially if the fire had come to spread and got bigger. Little quote here from Andrew Gouston, the business safety manager. Timely reminder in terms of investing for sprinkler systems, protecting businesses from severe damage. This was a nice quote here. They said, a sprinkler system can really make a difference. In 2019, we attended a similar fire locally, which resulted in the total loss of business. Sprinklers would have made the difference. That was quite interesting there, that the fire and rescue service had actually attended a similar fire last year, where there was a total loss of business. So, quite what that means, sort of technically, I'm not sure, but the business was totally ruined. So, and when I say the similar fire, I'm guessing again it was a fire that had started from some kind of electrical device. So yeah, that was a really nice comparison between sprinklers and not sprinkler protecting. Moving on, I noticed that there was a new British standard for fire detection. That's BS 5839, Part 6. So this is for fire detection and fire alarm systems, buildings, but this is specifically for domestic buildings. So I just thought that was worth noting. Sprinkler systems and fire detection, they do often kind of go together, and often they are integrated together. Sprinkler detection will actually feed into the wider fire detection system, which can all then play a part in a good evacuation strategy based on having the most and the best information available. That was just a little note there. Also, there's a new sprinkler standard which is coming out. So PSEN 12845. So that the most current version at the moment is 2015. So there's going to be an updated version. I imagine it'll be 2020. Even if it comes out in sort of spring 2021, it may well still be called 2020. This is in the initial draft stage at the moment. So I've seen a copy of the draft, and maybe some of you listening have also seen a copy of that draft. So I can't sort of talk about it much at the moment, other than I would say that there are a lot of changes in there, particularly to do with fire categories. The way that buildings are placed into particular categories. Obviously, that has a bearing on very much on what is required, what discharge densities are required, what equipment is put in place. So yeah, I was quite surprised really how much it had changed. Again, I think we've spoken in the past about the fact that obviously Brexit, leaving the European Union, what does that mean for these kind of European standards, which are BS and EN standards? So it would seem to me that we wouldn't have to take on the EN standard. Obviously, we've been a part of that discussion, a part of that kind of group, put that standard together, but we wouldn't need to take it on board. However, my understanding is that we will, because we think it's a decent standard, and obviously a lot of extra work to then produce our own. And also, interestingly, there's a question mark over intellectual property. So normally we would just kind of say, okay, well, 80% of it's good, so we'll take all of that, and then we'll add our own bits for the bits that we want to change. Well, actually, who owns the intellectual property of that 80%? It may well belong to the EU, and therefore we wouldn't be able to copy it necessarily. So yeah, as I understand it, we would be taking that on. And yeah, just to note that Project Fire, as part of the sprinkler talks, or maybe something bigger, we would be providing training, some comments to kind of highlight the major changes once that standard is published. Little update on Grenfell. There's still kind of stories going around about that, and quite rightly too. It was a major event, a major tragedy. What we're looking for now is the good stuff. We're looking for rules, legislation, laws to be changed in order to improve fire safety, to ensure that it doesn't happen again, or a similar fire doesn't happen again. So there's a few stories coming around here. First of all, about this some kind of meeting that took place, a secret meeting, to which the council and the primary contractor kind of agreed some cuts to the materials and to the kind of the scope of works, if you like, and what the total cost would be. £800,000 of savings were agreed, including switching from the more expensive zinc cladding paddles for the aluminium alternatives, which obviously were then the centre of the investigation to the spread of the fire. So the aluminium panels obviously weren't the cause of the fire, but it's certainly thought that they were part of the problem in terms of creating such a large fire in a short space of time. So yeah, it's not the kind of story that I like, but it is out there if you want to check that out. FIA.uk.com, and say in various other places who are reporting similar sorts of things. So for me, it just kind of highlights the fact that often we don't like spending money on things that aren't of commercial value. So this idea that making the building look nice, yeah, that's commercial value. We can charge more. People that can make the building more attractive for people. But spending money on the fire prevention, fire safety, it's often obviously you buy it. Hopefully you never need it. You never get to use it. but obviously it is really, really important that we do that. On a similar note, we've got a new fire safety bill, which is being kicked around between Parliament, House of Lords, etc. Discussions going on, it seems that some people, the Labour Party in particular, seem to be wanting to make sure that we don't fall into the same traps that we have done in the past, where the wording is too ambiguous, it's too kind of recommendations and kind of hinting at things. We really need to spell it out. We have a new regulatory reform order, which is what people also call the fire safety order, and it's there to encourage building owners to implement the recommendations of the Grenfell inquiry. So, the Hackett report has come up with lots of recommendations for the industry, which I know that certainly in the automatic fire sprinkler industry, we are definitely taking note of those recommendations and actioning them. Lots of other industries as well are doing the same. What about building owners? So again, for them, it is a case of pointing out particular responsibility for things like external wall construction, cladding, balconies, windows, fire doors, common access areas. So all of these things are kind of being highlighted as, in the past we said, well, everything was your responsibility. Now we're saying, right, these things are included in that kind of general picture of fire safety to make it absolutely clear where the responsibility lies. But we also want this to go further in terms of law, legislation, reducing ambiguity, making powers to force building owners to take action. And so one of the suggestions was in terms of actually commissioning risk assessments of the building, identify the risks, then actually making sure that they are actioned. Saying that may well be better fire detection, might be changing materials, might be installing automatic fire sprinkler systems. There's a lot of remedial works that are required where we have buildings, older buildings, which were signed off in the past. Again, there's no real requirement for those improvements to be carried out. And we're just kind of using these kind of words into the recommendations. Well, this would be a good idea. This would make the building more safe. But we just need that legislation, the laws in there to force that change through. There's also a concern that all these costs will just be passed on to tenants. Again, we're looking at trying to make it sure that the building owner pays their share. The other story I came across, a waking watch. So I think, first of all, let's find out what a waking watch is, if we don't know. So Shropshire Fire and Rescue Service, I found this on their part of their website, where there was a freedom of information request regarding waking watches in terms of how many are going on, how much they cost, that sort of information that they wanted. So in that kind of response to that freedom of information request, there's a definition here of what a waking watch or waking brief is. It's basically when a person or persons are required to monitor the whole or part of a building for signs of fire at all times. So it is a physical watch. Somebody's job is to be there at the building and look out for signs of fire. And again, they kind of, in response to this freedom of information request, they're essentially saying, well, we don't have information on this. We don't have records kept of our waking watches because, it is a short-term fix. They're given some examples there where the AFD, which is the automatic fire detection system, is in repair. So when that's kind of down, then you might want to use a waking watch. Some sort of electrical surge, fire strike, heat damage, something that is meaning that for a short period of time, a temporary period of time, the building is not as safe as it should be. In which case, you would have a waking watch or a waking brief installed at the building. So a person, kind of hired to kind of carry out that job, and that would be for a short period of time whilst the system's fixed or the building is fixed, whatever way. I'd imagine a couple of weeks, and you'd be looking to remove that waking watch because it's done its job. So that's kind of a little bit of background. The story that I came across in the FPA.co.uk is talking about this idea that waking watches are being used as almost like a semi-permanent installation. Where we got older buildings that say in the wake of the Grenfell fire, they've had an inspection. They've been told, this building is not safe because of the material constructions that you're using, and because of the lack of AFD, the building's not safe. So instead of actually fixing the problem, they've installed these kind of waking watches. So they're hiring contractors and companies to come in and watch out for fire. And obviously, this is costing thousands of pounds per month, hundreds of pounds, sort of per tenant or per the council obviously got to cover that some housing schemes per month. And the story was going on about overcharging. So this is maybe overcharging on the actual labour itself, but also on lots of extras. So overcharging for kind of radios, equipment, chairs, fridges, just for all of these companies to kind of do these watches. And so the article was basically saying, why aren't they actually installing, say, something like AFD, automatic fire detection? Then a lot of these fire watches would not be required anymore. The AFD is thought to pay for itself in under 8 weeks. So in March, London Fire Brigade reported that 430 blocks in London have these waking watches, which I say are on a kind of a semi-permanent basis to just keep going. London Fire Brigade are doing fortnightly inspections on these waking watches, I guess, just to make sure that they are actually doing them. Saying that they are, so they're going to go around and check. This ties up a lot of their resources. So that I was surprised to read this story. It does seem like a silly position to be in, and just needs the sort of the permanent fix to be made, so we don't have to rely on these waking watches, which are wasting a lot of money. I'm used to this idea of waking watches in the sprinkler industry, and again, it is a temporary measure. We've got a building where sprinklers are installed, obviously there to protect the property, protect lives. They're there to do a job. So if those sprinklers are offline for whatever reason, then again, the building is not as safe as it was when the sprinklers were on. So there are some measures that we can put in place. One of those is having this kind of waking watch, this kind of permanent sort of physical inspection, physical eyeballs on the building to check for signs of fire. But as I say, this would be on a very temporary basis. As soon as that sprinkler system is fixed, repaired, altered, whatever needs to be doing, serviced, once it's brought back online again, then that waking watch is no longer required. I just wanted to remind you that we've got a product called LiveTap. Project Fire's LiveTap is a way of carrying out sprinkler system modifications where you don't need to drain down. And draining down is one of the more common ways in which the sprinkler system is offline. It's called a planned shutdown. So you drain all the water out of the pipes so you can actually then carry out some alterations and maintenance work on the system. And obviously, whilst there's no water in the pipes, there's no protection. So that's one of the ways in which you could legitimately use a waking watch. Let's say LiveTap means that you can carry out modifications without draining down. We just wanted to remind you of that. There's more information about LiveTap on our website. We can show you some videos on that, training available. Carry out those kind of work without draining down. Another story I came across where there was a court case between Birmingham City Council and a tenant who they were arguing about putting sprinklers into a building. So normally the argument is for sprinklers, and it's local councils, etc., basically saying, yeah, we'd love to, but we don't have enough money. But in this case, it's the council that want to put the sprinklers in place. Actually, one of the tenants was arguing that they shouldn't, that it was a waste of money. But it seemed odd to me that he didn't want sprinklers in the block where he was. But yet the High Court judge ruled that the council had not broken any law in making this decision to install sprinklers into their buildings, and I guess that it wasn't a waste of money, so that is going to go ahead. But yeah, that was again another story which I came across that raised my eyebrows when I if you want to find out more, then again you can search for that sort of thing. Birmingham City Council sprinkler court case. I found one in the Birmingham Mail, for example. Sprinklers at Runcorn Tower Block. So this was installed back in the summer. But yeah, Cheshire Fire Authority sort of gave a partial grant towards the cost. This is a 12-storey high tower block, retrofitting sprinklers into the block. So this is quite common for fire authorities to provide grants for installing sprinklers, because it just reduces their risk. As part of what the fire authority do. Yes, they're there to be reactive. They're there to tackle fires when they happen. But also they're there to advise in terms of fire safety, so that fires never happen. And installing sprinklers is certainly one of the ways to help with that. So yeah, the Cheshire Fire Authority had a pot of £160,000 to be offered to housing providers retrofitting sprinkler systems. This was just one of the buildings in Cheshire that has been completed. Finally, just another plug for Project Fire. So recently we have been contacting fire and rescue services and authorities to offer them free training on automatic fire sprinkler systems. And we've had some good interest. We've got Lancashire and Hertfordshire, signed up for that training. So, as you know, the reason why you're probably watching this is because sprinklers are quite a niche topic. So even in the fire and rescue service, there is a need to have more information about sprinklers, understanding them. I did a training course for fire and rescue service a few months ago, and one of the things that they wanted to know about was when they're attending a sprinkler activation, what do I do? In terms of, I arrived at the building, I've done an inspection, there's no fire, okay, what next? What valves I need to operate, which buttons we need to press, turn the sprinkler system off in a safe and suitable manner. But also just understanding how the sprinkler system operates would also just help in terms of making the correct response to when the fire and rescue service are arriving at a building and the sprinklers are already activated. It can just really help in their decision making in terms of what next steps to take. So again, just letting you know, that's what Project Fire are doing in December and January. We're providing this training to fire and rescue services that are interested. Okay, and that is it for today. Hope you found that useful. So it's a little collection of stories that I found about sprinklers and fire safety in the UK. Next week, we are looking at residential sprinklers part 3. That is basically tidying up anything that we haven't spoken about so far in terms of residential sprinklers. So yeah, hope you can join me next week for that. And yeah, hope you have a good week, and I shall see you next time. Well, bye-bye.